For most of us, childhood was kind of like a boot camp for the real world, right? The message we got over and over in our homes and at school was simple, and man, it was relentless. And that message was basically, you gotta climb the ladder, and you better climb it fast. You had to be louder, quicker, and better than the next person. It felt like we were in a race from the day we were born. And there was this constant pressure for immediate results. It wasn't just be good, it was be good right now. Don't just succeed, make sure everyone sees you succeed. If you were quiet, it felt like you were already falling behind. So we were all taught to run that same frantic race. But here's a thought. What if that entire mindset is just wrong? What if the real path to lasting influence isn't about being loud and fast at all? What if it's about being quiet, patient, and restrained? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at this unseen difference that gets started way back in childhood. Then we'll get into the 5 key habits that build this foundation. And finally, we'll see how all this creates a massive generational gap. All right, first up, the unseen difference. Look, the real separation, the real one, doesn't start when a trust fund kicks in. No way. It starts so much earlier, in these quiet moments of childhood. They're taught a totally different way to approach life. It's not about what they're given, it's about what they're taught to do. So that begs the question, right? How is this different mindset actually built? Well, we're about to unpack the 5 core habits that shape the whole thing. And listen, these aren't big dramatic gestures. We're talking about subtle daily practices that just compound over an entire lifetime. So here they are, the 5 pillars of restraint: silence, patience, dignity, observation, and finally, character. Each one builds on the one before it, creating this incredible framework for emotional discipline. So let's dive into that first one. Okay, let me ask you something. Does silence feel awkward to you? Picture this. You're at dinner, and there's that lull in the conversation, that quiet moment. What's your first instinct? If you're like most people, it's to jump in and fill that space, right? To say anything to avoid that uncomfortable quiet. And right there, that's the first huge difference. Most of us feel like we have to fill the silence to prove we're engaged, but old money kids, they learn something totally different. They're taught that silence isn't empty space, it's a tool, it's power. By not reacting right away, by not needing to speak first, they actually learn to control the room. Because when you're truly comfortable with silence, it shows you're not desperate for anyone's approval. You don't need to jump in and impress people. And down the road, in your career and in life, that translates into this calm, compelling authority that people are just drawn to. Okay, moving on to habit number 2. This one builds right on top of that idea of control. Let's talk about waiting. Does waiting feel like a punishment to you? When you were a kid, if you had to wait for something you really wanted, did it feel like you were being denied? Because for most of us, life is a series of instant rewards. You get good grades, you get a new video game. You behave, you get a treat. But in these old money families, desire is, well, it's intentionally stretched out. They might be able to afford to give their kid anything they want right then, but they don't. Waiting isn't a punishment. It's just part of the training. And what this does is it builds this incredible muscle for emotional patience. As adults, they can play the long game. They can invest for decades, think about their grandchildren's future, and stay totally calm when things take years to pay off. Why? Because they've been practicing waiting their whole lives. It just feels normal. All right, habit number 3. This one's all about how mistakes are handled. Let me ask you this. When you were a kid and you messed up, were you ever corrected in front of other people? Maybe in front of family or guests or even in public? Because there's a really stark contrast here. For a lot of people, discipline can be a public thing, right? And it can get pretty emotional. But in old money culture, that's a huge no-no. Public for preserving dignity. Any kind of correction, that happens later. It's calm, and it's always in private. And the effect of this is profound. The kids learn to be accountable, but without all the shame attached. They learn that making a mistake doesn't destroy who you are. This preserves their self-respect, and it teaches them that composure is way more important than just flying off the handle. It builds this unshakable foundation. Okay, on to habit number 4, and this one is so relevant today. Are kids constantly entertained? Are they always glued to a screen, surrounded by toys and distractions? Is the main goal of parenting just to keep them busy and quiet? Well, this is another massive divide. While a lot of kids are shielded by entertainment, old money kids are often just expected to be present in adult spaces. No iPad, no special toys. They're just supposed to sit there quietly and observe. They listen to adult conversations, even if they don't get all of it. They're not being protected from the adult world, they're being immersed in it. And what happens is, this develops maturity, and it develops it early. They're absorbing how adults think, how they negotiate, even how they disagree without being disagreeable. So later on, when they walk into a boardroom or a fancy dinner, it's not scary or intimidating. It feels totally familiar. They've been there their whole lives. All right, we're at our fifth and final habit. And honestly, this one might hit close to home for a lot of us. Is your worth tied to your achievements? Think about it. Did you feel like praise or even love was conditional? Like you only got it when you performed well? Because for so many of us, praise is for the results. It's for the A on the report card, the winning goal. But in these families, the value is placed on character first. They praise things like discipline, restraint, and integrity before they praise the achievement. Success is kind of just expected. It's not the main event. And the result of this? It creates incredible emotional stability. If your whole identity isn't built on this shaky foundation of wins and losses, then when you fail, and everyone fails, it doesn't shatter you. You're not spending your whole life chasing the next hit of validation because you were taught from day one that your worth was never up for debate. So now, let's step back and look at the big picture, the generational gap. When you stack all 5 of these habits on top of each other, what you get is a massive gap. And it's not really about money, is it? It's a huge chasm in mindset, and it just gets wider with every single generation. So the real separator? It's not the wealth, it's the tempo, it's the restraint, it's the emotional discipline that's been quietly taught, not for a few weeks, but over decades. While the rest of us are being trained to sprint, they're being trained for a marathon that lasts for generations. They're raised to endure. And that's the crazy part. It looks so calm, it's almost invisible. This whole thing isn't flashy or dramatic. It's so subtle that you could be standing right next to it your whole life and never even notice that the fundamental programming is completely different. And here's the kicker. By the time most of us even start to notice this profound difference, this difference in tempo, in emotional control, it's too late. The gap isn't just a gap anymore. It's become a canyon, and it's already generations wide.